Right now, somewhere on this planet, an animal is having dinner, but it isn't doing what you're doing. You take a bite. You chew. Maybe 10 times, maybe 20 without even thinking about it. It's boring, automatic background noise to your brain. That animal isn't chewing at all. Not once. It's opening its mouth, and an entire creature, fur, bone, skin, everything of Ailaox is disappearing down its throat in one motion. No bite marks. No breaking it into pieces. Just gone. Most people see this and assume it's laziness, a shortcut, a crude, unrefined way of eating compared to how civilized chewing works. That assumption is completely wrong. And once you understand what's actually happening inside that animal's body, you'll never look at your own dinner plate quite the same way again. Because here's the twist nobody tells you. This isn't really a story about predators, it's a story about a trade-off written into your own biology too. One you're acting out at your own table more often than you'd think. Stick around, because by the end, this connects directly back to something you do almost every single day without noticing it. Let's start simple. Why don't predators just chew? Watch a python. It can unhinge its jaw wide enough to swallow something bigger than its own skull. Watch a crocodile. It can clamp down with bone-crushing force, but it can't slice, can't grind, can't chew in any real sense. Watch a pelican tilt its head back and an entire fish vanishes down its throat, whole. At first glance, this looks like nature being sloppy, inefficient, almost embarrassing to watch, but it's not a flaw. It's a strategy, and it comes down to one brutal law of life in the wild. Time is dangerous. Every second an animal spends processing food is a second it isn't watching for danger. Picture a lioness who's just taken down a zebra. She isn't alone out there. Hyenas are lingering at the edge of the grass. A rival pride might be closer than she realizes. Vultures are already circling above, waiting. Every second she spends chewing is a second something else could steal her kill, or worse, catch her with her guard down. So evolution did something almost ruthless. It didn't optimize many predators for the best way to eat. It optimized them for the fastest way to get food somewhere safe. Inside their own stomach, where nothing else can take it. Once it's swallowed, it's secured. Nobody can steal it back. So what actually killed the ability to chew in these animals in the first place? The answer is sitting right in their mouths. Look closely at a snake's jaw. There are no flat molars, no grinding surfaces like the ones lining your own mouth. Its teeth curve backward, built purely to hook prey and drag it deeper toward the throat. A snake couldn't chew even if it desperately wanted to. The hardware simply isn't there. A crocodile tells the same story. Its jaw only moves in one direction. Open, clamp, roll. No side-to-side motion. No grinding whatsoever. Evolution never bothered building these animals a chewing mechanism because chewing was never what kept them alive. Speed was. Here's where it gets genuinely unsettling. Digesting bone, fur, and whole flesh requires something extreme. And animals that swallow prey whole have exactly that. Their stomach acid is strong enough over time to dissolve metal. In snakes specifically, gastric fluid sits around a pH of roughly 1, acidic enough to break down entire skeletons, hooves, even the sharp quills of a porcupine over the course of several days. Scientists studying Burmese pythons documented something almost hard to believe. After swallowing a large meal, a python's heart can grow by roughly 40% within just 2 days. Its intestines physically lengthen. Its metabolic rate can spike more than 40 times its resting level, purely to power the digestion of that single enormous meal. This isn't calm, passive digestion. This is the body essentially going to war with what it just swallowed. And here's the strangest part. Some of these animals barely need to eat again for weeks afterward. A python that swallows something the size of a deer can go months without hunting again. For us, chewing is step one, breaking food down before digestion even begins. For these predators, the entire process, breakdown, absorption, everything, happens after the swallow. The mouth's only real job is speed. But here's a connection almost nobody makes. Chewing isn't just mechanical for us. It's tangled up with something much deeper, something social. Look at how humans actually eat. We sit down, we slow down, we talk between bites, we share a table with people we trust. Researchers studying early human settlements found something telling. Once humans began eating together around a shared fire, meal times stretched longer, and survival rates went up alongside them. A slow shared meal meant someone else was watching your back while you were momentarily vulnerable. That's the exact opposite strategy of a lone predator gulping down a kill out in the open. Humans didn't outgrow the need for safety while eating. We simply outsourced it to each other. Now here's where this stops being about animals and starts being about you. Think back to the last time you were genuinely starving and food finally showed up. Did you chew it carefully, the way health class always told you to? Probably not. You likely tore into it fast, barely chewing at all. That's not a coincidence. That's the same ancient survival circuitry still wired into your nervous system. Underneath modern table manners, your body still runs on the same underlying rule every predator runs on. When food feels scarce or threatened, speed wins. Careful chewing is a luxury, one that only exists because, for most of human history, nobody was hunting you while you ate. Here's something fascinating about your own anatomy. You genuinely cannot safely swallow food whole, and there's a very specific reason why. Your throat simply wasn't built for it. You have a small flap of cartilage called the epiglottis, whose entire job is sealing off your windpipe every time you swallow. It works most of the time, but swallow something too large, too fast, and that system can fail. That's exactly why choking remains a leading cause of accidental death in humans. Something that almost never happens to a snake or a crocodile because their throats evolved specifically to handle enormous unshed mass. Yours didn't. You paid a different evolutionary price for a different advantage. You traded raw swallowing capacity for the ability to speak, to form complex facial expressions, to fine-tune the very same muscles a python uses purely to swallow. Evolution had to pick one. In you, it picked communication over raw swallowing power. There's another layer to this most people never hear about, and it's not just about speed or safety. It's about nutrition, in a way that seems backward at first. Picture a fur seal caught by an orca, or a fish caught by a heron. Chewing would actually waste part of that meal. Small bones, cartilage, even fish scales carry calcium and minerals the predator's body needs. Chew them into fragments, and some of that value gets lost, dropped in the water, scattered on the ground. Swallow the whole thing intact, though, and stomach acid dissolves it slowly and completely, extracting every last bit of nutritional value over hours instead of seconds. In other words, some predators aren't just avoiding risk. They're running a more efficient extraction process than chewing could ever offer. The mouth would only get in the way. Once you understand this, what happens next inside the body starts to look almost engineered. A snake's stomach doesn't just sit there passively digesting. Researchers studying constrictor snakes found that the entire digestive tract essentially rebuilds itself after a large meal. The intestinal lining grows new tissue, enzyme production ramps up almost instantly, and blood flow to the digestive organs can increase by more than tenfold within a single day. Then, weeks later, once the meal is fully processed, many of those same organs actually shrink back down again, conserving energy until the next kill arrives. Your digestive organs run at a steady, constant baseline every single day of your life. A python's organs power on and off like a machine, activating only when there's an actual job to do. So what did these animals lose in exchange for all this? Almost total control over their food while they're eating it. A big cat can't safely chew and scan its surroundings at the same time. So many cats barely chew large chunks of meat at all, gulping them down to get their head back up and keep watching for threats as quickly as possible. Speed of escape from vulnerability is the real currency here. It also explains something you may have noticed if you've ever watched a dog eat. Dogs descended from wolves still carry this instinct. Watch one inhale its food in seconds, barely chewing, practically gulping. That's not bad manners. That's roughly 10,000 generations of ancestors who learned the hard way that a slow eater tends to become a dead eater. And science backs up something bigger than any single species here. Across the animal kingdom, chewing time correlates almost perfectly with how safe an animal feels while eating. Animals near the top of the food chain, or animals able to retreat somewhere hidden before eating, tend to chew more. Animals exposed out in the open, competing for a fresh kill, chew less and swallow faster. It isn't intelligence, it isn't laziness. It's a direct readout of exactly how dangerous that particular animal's world is, which raises an uncomfortable question about your own life. What does it say that you get to evolve into a species that can sit and chew slowly with your guard completely down? The ability to eat calmly and carefully isn't something every species gets to have. It's a privilege bought by millions of years of your ancestors climbing higher up the food chain, building shelter, forming groups, until eating finally stopped being the most dangerous 10 minutes of the day. But here's the part that connects everything back to right now, tonight, at your own dinner table. Modern life has quietly dragged you halfway back toward the old predator strategy, without you ever noticing. Eating in your car, eating at your desk, eating in front of a screen, distracted, barely chewing, barely tasting anything. Researchers who study eating speed found that people distracted while eating chew noticeably fewer times per bite than people eating with full attention. You're not being hunted by a hyena, obviously, but In that distracted moment, your brain is still running the same ancient shortcut, treating the meal as something to rush through instead of something to actually savor. The threats have changed. A notification instead of a predator, a deadline instead of a rival pride. But the underlying wiring reacts almost identically. Faster bites, less chewing, less presence. That's also part of why choking has quietly become more common in exactly the environments that feel the safest. Eating while laughing, eating while talking, eating while distracted by a phone. Each of those moments recreates, in miniature, the same vulnerability a predator faces out in the open. Except you don't have the biology to survive that mistake the way a python does. Your body was never built for speed swallowing. It was built for something else entirely. Now picture yourself 40,000 years ago, crouched at the edge of a fire, a piece of meat in your hand. Somewhere out in the dark, something is watching. You don't chew slowly, you tear off a piece, swallow it half-broken, and keep your eyes fixed on the tree line. That instinct never fully disappeared. It's still folded somewhere deep inside your nervous system. It's why stress eating so often looks like fast, barely chewed eating. It's why, under pressure, humans revert to gulping food almost exactly the way a starving predator does. You're not broken in that moment. You're remembering. So the real answer to why predators swallow meat whole was never really about jaws, or acid, or metabolism. Those are just the mechanics. The real answer is about what an animal's world demands of it. A python swallows because a slow bite is a death sentence in its world. A crocodile swallows because time spent in the open is time spent exposed. And you, sitting calmly at your table tonight, get to choose slowly. Because somewhere back in your evolutionary past, your ancestors fought their way into a world where, for the first time, they finally didn't have to eat like they were being hunted. If this changed how you think about your next meal, subscribe, because there's a lot more hiding in the everyday things we never stop to question.